Noel is an edgy young man who wants to become the world's strongest seeker, but he gets stuck with the weakest support class possible, a talker. In this world, there are phenomena called abyss that are connected to the depths of hell, and on this godforsaken day, matchmaking was busted so Noel's village got attacked by level 12 demons. Noel's grandfather is the only one in the village who has the skills to put up a fight against the demons, so he grabs his axe and tells Noel to stay hidden while he holds off the demons until help arrives. However, Noel knows there's no way help is coming for them in a situation like this, and fighting all those demons alone is a death sentence. He doesn't believe his grandpa can make it back alive from something like that, but his grandpa assures him that he can handle it. After all, he has defeated a level 13 demon before, and people don't call him over death for nothing. After that, he went out to face the demons, and while he may have put up a good fight and taken out a bunch of demons, Grandpa still got cooked so bad that his legs are in a different time zone. Noel rushes to his side, and Grandpa apologizes for not being strong enough to survive like he promised, but he had no choice if he wanted to protect the village. This is the fate all Seekers are doomed to because of the life of combat they've dedicated themselves to. Grandpa asks if Noel is going to follow his footsteps even after witnessing the dangers of the job, and with tears in his eyes, Noel declares that he will become the most powerful Seeker in the world, and Noel promises to become the world's strongest Seeker to carry on his grandpa's legacy. We then cut to present day when Noel has fulfilled his promise and became a Seeker to follow in his grandpa's footsteps. And although he's giving his teammates orders, he is far from the strongest on the team since he possesses the weakest support class, the Talker. The monsters Noel's team has been fighting are called lesser vampires, and they can't use magic, but they are troublesome to deal with since the Vampire Queen can reproduce in a short amount of time and give rise to a new army. Noel warns his party members not to let their guard down, because the lesser vampires are still insanely strong and they can continue fighting even when severely injured, so each one needs to be double tapped. The party continues through the dungeon, and Walter asks Noel if they can just ignore all the lesser vampires and head straight for the Queen, so they can complete the mission quickly. However, Noel tells him that that is a dumb idea since they would end up being surrounded by lesser vampires while they fight the Queen. This mission is already difficult enough for a C-rank party like them to handle, so recklessly charging forward would surely get them killed. Walter gets the message, but he sarcastically says he is only listening to Noel because he is the important talker of the party. As a talker, Noel is able to enhance his party members with buff words, but his personal strength is far below average and it really frustrates him. So Noel turns around and is about to roast the self-confidence out of Walter. However, before he can say anything, he notices a lesser vampire camping on the ceiling, and it's definitely planning something, so he orders his team to take cover. Just then, the vampire releases a poisonous cloud, and Noel is caught right in the middle of it. The others see that Noel is in danger, so they want to rush over and save him. But before they can act, they get attacked by the vampire and Tanya gets knocked down. Walter and Lloyd try to stop the demon, but without Noel's buffs, they are much weaker than they were before, so Walter pleads with Noel to snap out of it and give them some orders. Noel hears this, and he has a flashback to the day his grandpa died, so he swears to himself that he won't let anyone else die and pulls out a gun to fire several shots at the demon while also drinking a health potion to recover from the poison. He may not have the same kind of strength his grandfather did, but that doesn't mean he is completely useless, and he plans to showcase just how important a talker can be. He activates his Talker Tactician skill, and now when he gives his teammates orders, their abilities are boosted by 25%. He then uses his Battle Voice skill, and is able to increase the stamina and mana of his team. With Noel's help, the team is now able to hold their ground, but above them, Tanya spots 3 more demons, and she starts freaking out, so Noel uses one of his skills to get her to calm down. If everything goes according to plan from here, Noel predicts that the team should be able to finish the monsters off in 74 seconds, so he tells the others that he will handle the rest of the lesser vampires, so they should focus on taking down the Queen and prepare to use their strongest attacks. As the lesser of vampires attack Noel, he uses a speech technique and yells at them to make them freeze in place, and once they are unable to move, he uses his magic gun to shoot an ice bullet and encase them in a block of ice. Unfortunately, one of the lesser vampires managed to dodge the attack, but he still has 1 bullet left in the chamber, so he has the option of freezing the last lesser vampire to save himself. However, he decides to fire the bullet at the Queen to distract it and provide an opening for his teammates instead. Thanks to this, Walter and Lloyd are able to hit the Queen with their ultimate moves and take it down. But when Tanya turns to Noel to celebrate their victory, she is horrified as she sees him getting stabbed by the lesser vampire. Fortunately, it turns out that Noel wasn't really stabbed, as he perfectly calculated things to make sure he would survive. He knew that once the queen was defeated, all the lesser vampires would naturally stop moving, and there was just enough time for him to avoid being killed. With this, the team has successfully cleared the dungeon and the surrounding abyss dissipates. Noel's teammates come over to check on him, and while they know he planned it all carefully, they still scold him for recklessly endangering his life like that. Noel thinks back to the day when he first learned that he was a talker, and he was crying his eyes out because he wanted to be a warrior like his grandpa. His grandpa told him not to worry about it since regardless of his class, he is sure Noel will grow up to become the world's strongest seeker because he could sense incredible talent within him. Ever since that day, Noel hasn't been discouraged by his support class and remains determined to become the world's strongest seeker, even though he's just a talker. After their mission is complete, the party has to head back to Etria, the capital of the Velnet Empire, so they can report their success. The Empire is more susceptible to abyss attacks than other nations, so to fight this, the Empire developed magical technology using the materials they acquired from the demons. The material used to develop this technology can only be acquired with the help of Seekers, so Seekers are admired by the public for their contributions to society. Noel officially became a Seeker when he was 15, so he moved to the capital and found himself some companions since he couldn't fight alone as a Seeker. Walter over here is the warrior of the party, Tanya is the healer, and Loy is the swordsman. So although Noel would love to have a scout as well, all in all, their team is pretty balanced. Walter notices that Noel is being really quiet for some reason, so he asks if something is wrong. The party got a reward of 5 million Phil for completing the quest, so Walter asks if Noel is upset that they didn't negotiate for more money. He then tells Noel that a Seeker shouldn't get so hung up on money, and that his grandpa probably would have said the same thing, but on the contrary, the first lesson Grandpa taught Noel was that no matter what he does, he better be getting paid top dollar because he can't be risking his life just to go home broke at the end of the day. With that being said, Noel definitely wanted a higher reward, and he couldn't care less about what Walter thinks, but he will let it go just this once. Tanya tells Walter to quit bothering Noel, but he still insists that Noel should show him more respect since he is 2 years older than him. Noel retorts that age means nothing among Seekers, as the only thing that will earn you respect is your strength, and Noel is starting to question if Walter is really competent enough to be respected. Walter blows up and yells that Noel is the only one here who is incompetent because all he ever does is give orders from the back while the rest of them risk their lives on the front line. Noel thought he had a good dynamic with the team, but now he realizes that they all see him as a burden despite all the things he does for them. But before addressing that, he insults Walter one more time and is about to start a fight with him. However, Lloyd steps in and separates the two of them before anything bad happens. He then changes the subject and suggests that they call it a day and start splitting up their rewards. A little while later, they are all sitting by the fountain and Tanya is disappointed with how little she ended up getting after such a difficult mission. Lloyd explains that after all the equipment costs and taxes they had to pay, there was only 1 million Phil left, so each team member only gets 250,000. He agrees that it's frustrating, but their party's funds are steadily increasing, so he's sure they'll make more money the next time they get a big mission like this. Noel points out that there isn't going to be a next time because they almost never get big missions because clans get all the high-profile abysses, and even when they do get the missions, they will be forced to pay a penalty fee if they fail to clear it on their own, so it's not sustainable. That aside, Noel asks Lloyd how much money their party has in its joint funds account. Lloyd tells him they have 12.8 million saved up, so Noel suggests that the team should invest that money in forming their own clan. Everyone is shocked that he would suggest such a thing, and Lloyd tries explaining all the reasons why they can't do that, mainly because they would be required to pay 20 million to the country in order to set one up, and they don't have that much money. However, Noel isn't deterred and says he is willing to use 7.2 million of his personal money to make up the difference. He knows it's an expensive decision, but he assures everyone that in the long run, they'll gain much more money since they won't be limited to the leftover quests anymore. Lloyd then points out that they would need to acquire a base of operations within the capital, and rent prices are outrageous nowadays. However, Noel's already got that covered and found a cheap building for their team to rent. Tanya then chimes in and mentions that they are all still C-rank newbies, so they couldn't possibly handle running a clan, but Noel doesn't think that's a good excuse to avoid forming a clan. If they don't take the leap now, then they'll never be ready to run a clan on their own. Noel has been studying all about how to run a clan, so he knows all about the necessary procedures that need to be taken. The only thing he doesn't have is experience, and the only way to get clan experience is to start a clan. So while it may be difficult, there's no other way. Noel makes a good point, but even so, Lloyd still believes they won't be given any good jobs since they have proven themselves to be trustworthy. But that's where Lloyd is wrong. Noel can guarantee that they will be given a bunch of good jobs, and it has nothing to do with them being trustworthy. They are going to get jobs because they are hot. This country wants more seekers, and a great seeker is considered both a hero and an idol. So the country will naturally treat them better because they are good-looking. Tanya doesn't think it's a good idea since they would practically be selling themselves, but Walter is already sold on the idea because he has been getting sick of the mediocre life they've been living. He wants to experience fame and wealth, and there's nothing Tanya can say that will talk him out of it. Walter and Noel are in agreement on this, so Noel asks Lloyd what his opinion is as the leader of the party. If Lloyd wants to say no, then Noel is prepared to quit the party and take his share of the savings so he can form a clan with someone else because he has a dream to become the strongest seeker, and he won't let anything get in his way. Lloyd gets a dark look in his eyes as he is left with no choice but to accept Noel's demands. However, he suggests they discuss the details of this clan formation the day after tomorrow. Walter is fine with that, and Noel is glad he was able to get Tanya and Lloyd on board with his idea, so he leaves to rest for the night. However, later that day, Walter comes running to Noel with terrible news as he has just discovered that Lloyd and Tanya have betrayed them and disappeared with all the money. This was the end of episode 1. Subscribe to not miss the next part.